it just shows a lack of depth. This team, we've talked about it all season. That this team, it seems decent. The first 30 players, anything after that, you got question marks all around, and Florida State just isn't good enough yet to withstand the penalties and the self-inflicted stuff. They're just not, and we saw it today. But I think what Corey says here, got to handle the trenches. I think that the offensive line, I think they wore down towards the back end of the season. Again, lack of depth and the injuries. Having to depend on Brady Scott for as long as they did. Three straight games that Bud Taylor, misses to finish the season. It's just a different offensive line.
Yep. And, Washington and Scott, neither of them were healthy near the end. I mean, Scott hasn't been healthy for the entire season except for the first game. That's when he got hurt and he came back. He hasn't been healthy. Honestly, Washington's not healthy either.
This is kind of shit I can't stand right here. It's not Norvell. Come on.
I don't. That's why, when you put the other one that Corey said, yeah, we got handled in the trenches, but I don't see how that's on coaching. This is what they were given. The only people who are able to hold up in the trenches are people they've got. Some young guys that are beat up, but it's just, and what is it? Norvell says he always wants at least 8 guys on offensive line. Well, we've proven this year we have 6, and 2 of those guys have been injured. So now you get 4 guys, 2 of those guys are injured and not able to play the last 3 games. And you have 4 that you can rely on, plus Brady Scott in there. And 2 of those are hurt as well, that are still trying to play. And you're not going to block anything decent like that, so it's just, but now if we can get some guys in the portal and, have some of the first and second year guys develop well, things start to look different, and that's how it is. And hopefully we can see it for next year and we can get, guys, 8 or 9 guys on the line that we can rely on. If we can do that at the end of the season, things start to look different, even with some of the injuries that we're likely to see.
So y'all blaming players. So it comes down to this, HD. When you don't have all the tools in the tool belt, it doesn't matter. Okay, so you can look at the 3rd and 21. Tell me where that's coaching. I'll just use that as the example. I'm not going to sit here and debate the player versus coach. Both sides have been responsible for what we've seen this season on many fronts. You don't get the 5 and 7 by being one-sided with whether it's coaching or players. So, but you get the 5 and 7 when you have multiple transition classes, lack of player development, when you don't recruit offensive linemen or skill players like Willie Taggart did for one entire class. That's how you get here. So Norvell and his crew have had to make shit out of nothing. So let's just call it what it is.
Can I address as Corey said, read his whole comment. So, all that sounds great in theory. Okay, max protect, keep it tight end with 11 personnel, chip the running back, which we did a lot of that. We kept Wilson in to block a lot. We kept Corbin was in chipping and helping block and that kind of stuff. And we're trying to give the offensive line help. But here's the flip side of that. When you do that stuff, now you are relying on receivers to win not one-on-ones, but to beat 2 guys often. Because now you have 5 guys in coverage and you got 3 guys running routes. We have receivers who can't win one-on-one matchups. We're going to max protect and expect them to get open. It just I just don't see it with our receivers. Yeah, that stuff all sounds great in theory to be able to have a tight end and a running back stay in and block, and now you only have three guys going out for passes, and you're not doing that with our receivers. I'm sorry, you're not going to be successful doing that with our receivers because we just don't have the receivers to be able to win those kind of matchups on the outside to be able to do that. So you want to help the offensive line, win some one-on-one matchups, read some blitzes, and step up in the pocket. There are a few times when Travis could have just easily stepped up. He tries to run out, and that doesn't help either. So there's just a big flaw in personnel, period, in our offense that even with all that kind of stuff, it's not like we don't have any. We talked about it last week. We don't have good options. Like we just don't have good options when we go against some of this stuff because we don't have the depth, the personnel to be able to overcome that kind of stuff.
I think some guys have simply played outside of their ability, better than you've expected. I think Ontario Wilson, as a receiver, had a better season than you could have expected. I think Jordan Wilson, as a pass catching tight end, had a better season than what they expected as a pass catcher. So I think that is a positive for the coaching staff that they can get the play out of these guys that they got. So where's that question at? How many coaching changes do we see? I'll let you handle that one first. I think special teams is got to be addressed right away.
Yeah, special teams has to be addressed, but I'm not sure it's all a coaching issue on that end. Because again, a lot of special teams is having, people with
depth
good special
and players,
teams,
like Bama.
Depth at linebacker. Hold on. No. Crazy kids.
You look at Bama, their starters play special teams. FSU 2013, 12, that the run that FSU had, under Jimbo, starters play special teams. So yes, that is a part of it. But there's also fundamentals that just aren't there.
Yeah. I mean, but what I was going to say before my 3-year-old interrupted me. Our like special teams, coverage and that kind of stuff is you might have a few starters here, but overall you're reliant on linebacker depth and defensive back depth. Well, especially at the end of the season when we had a bunch of defensive backs injured and stuff like that. What did we not have? We have no linebacker depth. We have bad DB depth and bad receivers because that's the other position typically you rely on. We just don't have that players. So is there some bad technique? Yes. And then punt returning is so much instinctual, so if you can get a Mortimer in here who is a punt returner naturally, a lot of those punt return issues that we have, they don't all go away, but a lot of that stuff goes away because that guy can naturally field a punt. He understands when to let the ball drop, all that kind of stuff. And he can make big plays. So personnel helps a lot with that. So if we can get some more depth in that linebacker and get Mortimer in here and have some of those issues go away, we'll fix some of those issues. Because Papuchis has been a very good special teams coach no matter where he's gone. So I don't think he got to Florida State and all of a sudden, I don't know how to coach now. I think just a lot of things is just going to take time. It's not going to be a miracle cure or anything like that. Get better personnel in, all that stuff gets better to me.
Yeah, and for anyone questioning FSU taking Devon Mortimer, I think we see why. The guy's a record setter in terms of the return game in South Florida. You take that kind of kid as much as possible.
Yeah, and I think he's going to end up getting – because people are like, well, what kind of seasons he having? He's about to win Broward Player of the Year.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question? What kind of season he's having? He's dominating this year. So,
yes, I believe they were in quarters coverage on that 3rd and 21. It just came down to Florida State missing a play.
It doesn't matter.
Coverage.
it doesn't matter if we were in quarters. It doesn't matter if we were in a cover 1, cover 2, cover 3. It didn't matter. We missed 2 or 3 tackles on the sideline that would have stopped it. What difference does the coverage makes? We were in a coverage that had us have the opportunity to make a stop and force them to punt. We didn't tackle the ball carrier. End of story. Who cares what coverage we were in at that point? So